based out of Hyderabad, because I don't know anyone from any of the Rotary clubs in Hyderabad. So it is really great. So I'm very happy.
It's a small world. We'll get to meet Geetanjali now.
Sharmishta, I think I was telling you about this friendship exchange group. Probably, I'll share you the link.
Sure.
Yeah, you can also join. Hi, Prakriti.
Yes.
Hi, Gitanjali. Hi,
Yeah.
Sharmishta. Hi, Sutapa. Good to see you all together again.
Yeah.
Sutapa, it's actually not an interview session. It's more of interactive session with all key Rotarian members from many corners of the world. Every e-Rotarian members will be listening to you. So more of CFI, we want to hear from you.
Sure.
What's CFI? How it's working to eradicate the cancer patients, how they are detected, what's your agenda, everything. Welcome to our show, Preventive.
Thank you.
Ms Sutapa Biswas.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Founder director of CFI.
Yeah. Sharmishta, one of you will introduce Sutapa?
Sharmishta, you continue to introduce her.
Okay, pleasure. Give me a few moments.
The tagline of Sutapa that I can mention that she's a co-founder and executive director of CFI, an NGO which is working for last 20 years. This much I can say regarding her, and how beautifully, how much capability she's working. We are all aware of that. Now it's turn to Sharmishta to say more of her.
Okay, so let me add few more lines to this. Don't want to miss this opportunity,
Yes.
So I know Sutapa from school days. We were in same school till 10th standard. And so this gives me real great pleasure to see her reaching this height. And I'm very happy to have her here. And I want people to know about her work, the effort and time, she's giving to the cause. She is the co-founder and executive director of Cancer Foundation of India, which is an NGO working for prevention of cancer. And the organization is working in this field for at least around 20 years. The organization is based in Kolkata. She started her professional journey as a documentary filmmaker at the St. Xavier's College, Kolkata in 1993, where she used to script and direct short documentaries and films, along with being a voiceover artist. And then after spending some time in this documentary filmmaking, she had a personal loss after a few years, and this changed her path, the trajectory of her life. And then she wanted to do something for this cause of cancer. And she, with other eminent professionals, founded this Cancer Foundation of India. She specializes in cancer communication, along with being a public speaker in national and international forums. Her work has been widely acclaimed both nationally and internationally. So many prestigious, awards she has received from the American Cancer Society, Atlanta, USA, and then
Recently from who?
on Cancer, WHO France, Cancer Council Australia, Union for International Cancer Control Geneva, Switzerland, John Hopkins, Bloomberg School of Public Health, Baltimore, USA, European Union, this is International Cancer Control, and she has also been recently honored with the Lifetime Achievement Award from VCare Foundation, Mumbai. She has done her post-graduation in mass communication from Jadavpur University, Kolkata, and she has been a guest lecturer in the communication studies in Loreto College and St. Xavier's College, Kolkata University. So regarding her organization, Cancer Foundation of India is a national level NGO based in Kolkata, and CFI's team of professionals and volunteers are driven to bring a paradigm change in risk reduction, prevention, and early diagnosis of cancer in India. All different types of, cancer, mainly three groups, breast cancer, cervical cancer, and tobacco-induced ones. So tobacco-induced ones account for almost 60% of all the, cancer in India. So this organization CFI is building the awareness through various public platforms, policy issues, and they are participating and focusing on information sharing, research, training, screening and service, that is film screening. Currently, CFI has directed energies on issues of HPV vaccination towards elimination of cervical cancer in India. And then we are also bringing in other, like state governments, the voice of people living with non-communicable diseases at national and subnational levels. In India, about 3,000 people are diagnosed with cancers every day, they are saying. So over 60% of these patients are diagnosed at an advanced stage. That means very less can be done for these patients. So it's a continuous process, I think. So let us hear more from her. And viewers, please be ready with your questions. So at the end of her talk, you can put your own questions. So over to you, Prakriti. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Sutapa, from being a documentary film director and scriptwriter and a voiceover, how much challenging now to you on this new field? Or together a new field as a CFI director, how much it was challenging then?
Well, thank you very much. First of all, I think it's a little to have school friends introduce you with a long list of things that has been done. But it's heartening also to see that, you have friends who think of you, and public platforms that take you and the work is taken forward. Thanks to Prakriti and Shobhishta for that. And thanks to E-Rotary for the platform. Thank you so much. As you said that, it is a completely different world. I think there is no connection between the two, if you think of it that way. When I started in 2002, we think of doing it in 2001, and I had people almost laughing around me and saying, what's wrong with you? Because I was in a job that was my first and my last job in St. Xavier's College, and we were making films for almost 9 years. And I had, at that point of time, national awards, and they said that, what's wrong with you? You have a stable career. It's a central government job. You have a secure job. You have a pensionable job. Now you're getting into something the organization does not exist at all. So, naturally, everybody was kind of discouraging, of course, because they loved me. And then many in the fraternity of cancer, they felt that, what would a filmmaker talk? about cancer? You're not a doctor, you're not a scientist. How would you talk about cancer? So naturally, I have a lot of people, literally standing next to me and making fun or mocking the idea of a filmmaker wanting to work on cancer prevention. So having said that, that's the dark part of it. But on the other side, there were a lot of people who believed that we could do it. One was, of course, on that year, the World Cancer Report was released. And that report, the first opening paragraph was, we have enough science that has been done. We need professional communicators to talk to the people about the science. And that was, I think, very, very encouraging for me that, okay, wow, there's someone who is thinking communication. And of course, my founder, Professor Maqsood Siddiqui, with whom I started, he believed, he was the director of the Cancer Hospital in Calcutta, and he has worked internationally also for many, many years. So for him, he actually believed that there was a role for a communicator in cancer prevention particularly. So that way it was a little easy. And if I look back as two different professions, I think in that profession, technically I was there for officially 9 years, though I taught for a longer time. And now here I'm for almost 20 years. I think both are very, very satisfying. I think, now I have bridged the gap actually, because I do cancer communication here. So I brought communication to cancer. So I do what I used to do, because we studied development communication when I was studying in Jadavpur. So those are the learnings that I brought here. And that's one of the things that I keep on doing. And of course, enhancing my own capacity to be a better communicator every day in cancer prevention.
That's the way mass communication helped you out,
yes,
to reach more people. And what are the agenda now of CFI that with NCD? You are working with on NCD.
Yes, see, primarily Cancer Foundation of India is a non-profit, an NGO as we call it in India. And what everybody understands that if you're an NGO, then you are supposed to help people, right? So most often we get calls, people say, I have a cancer patient. Can you support the treatment? Can you give financial support? That is the first thing that we hear. And even people say that if you're not giving finances, then what are you doing? Then, it's pointless to do anything. But, in our experience, what we have seen is that normally when you get cancer and when it requires a lot of money, means the cancer has advanced. Late stage cancer is always, very expensive to treat. And most cases in India are late stage, diagnosed late, very, very late. And it's very expensive. And also that you cannot really cure the person. You can prolong the life, but you cannot cure. So that is the basic premise of what Cancer Foundation of India does. Because when I lost my grandmother to cancer and saw her, losing her literally every day. And that's one thing that I realized, that you can't do anything if you have the disease in the late stages. You just have to see the person go. So what we had thought of doing is, how can we reduce this whole problem of getting late stage cancer? So early diagnosis, this is one of the things that we thought of working on. And of course, not letting people get the disease. So now if we look at the NCD, the non-communicable disease spectrum, which has got a lot of diseases, one of the major diseases is cancer. So many of the risk factors or the lifestyle factors are common to all of us, which is, tobacco is common, alcohol is common, unhealthy diet is common, and, you have physical exercise, inactivity, that is also common. So what has been done internationally is that all these major diseases of non-communicable disease, NCDs, as we call it, that is diabetes, cancer, stroke, mental health, all these have been put together and said that you all work together, have a common voice. You work together because your lifestyle factors are similar. Same actually. So if everybody's talking tobacco, why talk separately? Rather, come together and have the voice stronger. So one of the areas of work for us is, of course, cancer is the focus work. But in the NCD spectrum, what we try to do is build on capacity, bring out people with the lived experience of NCDs. So, and take them to policymakers, because we work at policy advocacy level in changing policies, strengthening policies. So the whole idea for us is to make sure that the policies are strengthened and we have prevention being done at the level of the community across the country.
How does prevention, what are the measures of prevention in the early stage? How could you detect? and prevent this NCD?
See, one of the things is that for cancer particularly, the first thing that comes to people's mind is that you can't prevent cancer. Well, if it has to happen, it will happen. So that's the most common thing that we keep hearing. Because cancer is not, it's not caused by one factor only. It's a multifactorial disease, a lot of things, there are a lot of people who don't smoke, they still get cancer. There are many who would have maybe a very healthy lifestyle, so to say, they will still get cancer. Because it is not just one factor. And also that cancer happens in your whole body, any organ. So what happens is that tobacco, smoking would cause cancer of the lung, probably. It would not cause, probably, directly linked to, can I just take this? I think this
Yes.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. Take your time. Hello to a very new member. I'm not very familiar with you. Hello, sir. Welcome to my show, to our show. Basically, it's Rotary show.
Hello,
I
ma'am.
only contact the show. Hello.
How are
Nice
you?
to meet you. Nice to meet you for the first time.
I'm the invitee of Gitanjali. I just joined.
Yes.
She's part of this friendship exchange group we are forming. We did an international program also recently on foundation seminar. She must have told you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we have our other member, Mr. Yeah, I mean, we have, as I mentioned, like we have members from all over the country and abroad. We have Prakriti is joining in from Calcutta, and then we have Ishwarji here. He's online. He's joining in from US.
Hello, Prakriti.
Hello, Ishwarji. Hello.
Hi.
Hi, sir.
Yeah.
Good morning.
I know you. Actually, Ishwar Reddy, I'm very much familiar with him. Okay. Going back to Sutapa again.
I'm sorry, my apologies.
No.
Yeah, sorry.
Now, some common questions are there, Sutapa.
Yes.
Is cancer genetic?
Not all. I mean, most are not. But, as I said, as I was talking that, it's a multifactorial disease. So normally when you have, as I said, one thing, if you're smoking, there are many times we have people who don't smoke, but they still get lung cancer. It could be air pollution. It could be passive smoking as well. So, it is very difficult to pinpoint. So what everybody talks of, or what we talk of, is to reduce the factors that can be reduced. That, if you can do without using tobacco, please don't use it. Because we see a lot of people who are using chewing tobacco, for instance, or gutka or kaini or anything like that. If you have kaini, for instance, you have cancer here. So that is the localized area where you're putting it in, and since you have some of your members from Andhra, so I just want to mention that, in Srikakulam district of Andhra Pradesh, you have women, fisherwomen actually, who smoke kind of a hand-rolled churut, and they put the lighted side inside the mouth. So when the lighted side is put inside the mouth, the amount of heat that is there, it causes palate cancer. Now that is very typical of that particular region. You don't see that anywhere else. So you have these factors, the risk factors, which are inducing a particular kind of cancer. So it is not that you can generalize and say that, okay, if I don't do this, I will not get cancer. I will have these particular tests and I will not get cancer at all. It's not that. One has to be mindful, of course, stay out of the risk factors, definitely, have a generally healthy lifestyle, and along with it are mindful of any change which is abnormal in the body. That's what we say. Anything which is not normal. It could be in the breast, it could be in the mouth, it could be anywhere. Many a times, or most of the times when you talk to many patients who come to the hospital, that why didn't you do anything about it? You have such a huge lump there on your breast, or maybe a maggot's there. What were you doing? And they said, we had been going to the doctor, but it's not that, the doctor didn't know either, or we were not very serious, because pain is a very late stage symptom of cancer. Normally for us, we always associate any kind of health issue with pain. Like if I have a pain and a discomfort, then only will I go to a doctor. But if I don't have a pain, I would sit with it, even if I have any kind of a symptom. Typically, this is what happens. So then we allow the disease to spread. That's the problem with cancer. Again, it starts at one point and spreads to the rest of the body. So that is the problem, that it starts at stage 1 and gradually increases to 1, 2, 3, 4. And by the time you are in 4, then it's serious. And that's when it's very, very expensive, almost impossible to treat. Almost impossible to treat. So that is the main challenge that we have. So for Cancer Foundation of India, the focus is either you don't let people get the disease, so you don't, have the lifestyle factors that cause the disease. And second is diagnose it early. And then there's a vaccine which can prevent one of the cancers, get vaccinated. So, this is precisely what we work on.
How do you reach people to diagnose it on this first stage? What's the agenda of CFI? How to reach out to the people?
See, it depends. Again, most of the NGOs who work with cancer prevention, first of all, you will not find NGOs working in cancer prevention in India. They work with a lot of cancer issues and do some bit of cancer prevention, but hardcore, only cancer prevention, because it's very difficult to have funds for it. So simply said that, for us, it's extremely difficult to get funds. So it's always very difficult. That's why you don't have too many NGOs working. We need a larger force, of course, but it's not there. So when we started working, we strategized that, what do we do? I mean, where do we start or what do we do? So the whole idea was that, you have limitation of human resource. You don't have as many trained people, and you have a limitation of financial resource. So what do you start with? And India is a huge country. Where do you start and where do you end? So in your lifetime, how much do you do? So what we planned internally, since we are very, very high on intellectual resource, that's, I think, a huge strength that CFI has, and we are known for that. That is, it's the brains behind CFI. So what we planned was that let's do high impact work. So we have to plan work where we plan in such a way that we can reach out to the right target group and impact many more people. So one of the focus areas for us is like policy changes. For instance, we are working on, suppose, one of the vaccines, which is for cervical cancer, called HPV vaccine, the human papilloma virus. Now that vaccine, there are two options. Either we can buy the vaccines and as a community service, go on giving to individual girls. So we can go on doing that. That's one type of service. What we thought that there is no end to it because there are girls across the whole country. How many do you cover as an NGO? We have limitations. So we know where to stop. So we said, oh, we can't do that. And we can't sustain it also. So what could be the other option? The other option is that every girl in the country gets it for free, like the polio vaccine. So now what we work on is the high impact part of it is that we work with the policymakers and we work with other experts that let us put HPV vaccine into the universal immunization program of the country. So you work on the cost, you work on lots of things and also other policy issues so that when it gets into there, it's a slower process. Actually, it takes more time. But as and whenever, we all know that a lot of people working on it. So we are that group that works across the country. As and when we are able to take it there, forever, all girls in the country are protected. So one little NGO can take it forward and save or protect every girl in the country, not immediately, but forever. It becomes a part of the government program. So that's the kind of work that we do. At the other level, we work with the state governments to strengthen the programs that they have, because they have cancer programs, but they don't deliver it too well. That's not a priority always. So there are funds, there are guidelines, there are personnel available, but somewhere there are gaps. So what CFI does is identify those gaps with the governments and try and get the funds for it and work with them to strengthen the state government's program. Because what we have realized at small NGOs, we cannot run a parallel system. We cannot. So NGOs have a certain role to play. A, of course, is that we have the knowledge so we can help them strengthen. Public health is always the work of the government, but we can't keep on blaming them. We have to work with them together. So that is what CFI does, I think. So we don't reach out to individual communities. We do some, but not as much, but more of a larger community where we are able to deliver more. As I said, high impact work, which stays on beyond us. That's what we look at.
With all these procedures, must have many doctors who are with you besides CFI. must have many psychologists for your mental wellness. They are working with you from Calcutta or beyond.
Yes,
how
there
they are
are.
supporting this personnel, how they are supporting.
See, one of the things that we have found is that, public health, our work is called public health. So it's cancer public health. If you've seen during the COVID times, there is one which is the clinical part of it, and the other part is the community part of it. So Cancer Foundation of India, the prevention, all this prevention and all this stuff is part of public health. So CFI works on cancer public health. Now, you don't have too many doctors working in cancer public health. There are very few. And also those who are in the hospitals, again, very few of them have the opportunity to, again, work with cancer public health. They are mostly treating patients, and there's so many patients. After that, hardly there's any time for them to come out and even have time for a lecture, to be very honest. That's a reality. So even if they want to, it is difficult for them to find the time. And
no, I'm not talking about the lecture, Sutapa. How do they serve you, the CFI?
Most of them are from the government. That's what I was trying to come to. Okay. That since it's cancer public health, we do not have a lot of private practitioners supporting us, because it is not one of their focus areas. But yes, from the government, most of the time they are the intellectual brains behind it. As I said, when you're talking of policies, we are talking of structuring. Even there are many bureaucrats, who are IASs, who are part of the government. They also help us a lot in structuring and even telling us what would be the best way to get out of any problem that is there. So most of the doctors and others are mainly consultants to us and volunteers, I would say. They're all volunteers available at any time to structure these programs, brainstorm, and take the work forward.
Actually, they are into the propaganda and the agenda of CFI, they are not in direct connection with the patient. These doctors or psychologists?
Not as much, because we haven't really started working on these kind of clinics. Couple of them are there. When we do these free cervical cancer clinics, then we have doctors coming in as part of that. We work on the community and they come in with the technical expertise of screening. So that's one thing that they do, but not on a regular basis. It is more of the theory part of it that they help with. And as and when required, we hire doctors. That's why we don't do too much of work. But professionals for the clinics, they are only for the community service. So they do provide service on cancer screening at the grassroots level.
And when CFI is reaching to a very smaller community, smaller branch of community, as you said, as you mentioned earlier, then there should be any guideline for, you set some guideline for do's and don'ts.
For
the cancer patients on the first.
Okay.
As a guideline, did you mention like do's and don'ts? Do you set any guidelines for them? For the cancer
normally we don't work with cancer patients at all.
Okay.
That's one thing that has to be cleared upfront, that, we don't work with cancer patients, because once you get cancer, you get cancer. So that is one thing that we have kept out of the work that we do, the purview of our work. So we work before cancer and support after cancer. So primary focus is before cancer for us now, because that's where we felt that all the resource that we have, it would be better if we work on before cancer. So once you get the disease, we normally don't work with them. So that is one area. But
after support is how?
After support is mostly information as of now, because there are many. If we would want to expand, I mean, if we have the funds for it, we would expand to. Many of them need a psychological support, specialized counseling for cancer patients and caregivers, which is something which is very close to my heart. Wish I could do it sometime. And then, of course, many need prosthesis, because, if they lose their voice box, for instance, if they lose the breast, if they lose an arm, if they lose a limb, anything. So that's a prosthesis, artificial prosthesis, which is required for them, which is also one area that we would like to work on. What could be the most affordable or workable one that the women would need, for breast cancer, for instance. So there is a huge area.
Process is very expensive.
It depends, not always. But what happens is that, a woman has to know what is available and where it is available. There would be maybe, quite a few available, but they might have access to the most expensive one. And then they decide maybe sometimes they don't want to get a surgery done because they just don't want that prosthesis. So the whole idea is that to show it to them, this is how it is. All these are available, affordable, can be used, and you can take it, get into a surgery. If you remove your breast, fine, get that done and get to the prosthesis, life goes on. So, somewhere a lot of that work is also there, which we haven't taken up as yet. But, at some point, I would really love to take it up. I don't know when. But the focus as of now is more on the other part of it, that is before cancer. We feel there's so much of work that needs to be done. So as I said, the team is very small. So we need to focus very clearly as to what is it that we want, because you can't do it forever. You have to plan. And as Dr. Siddiqui helps us all the time, what he says is that you just don't keep on doing something forever. You start thinking, is it working? If it's not working, change the course, modify, revisit all your work, and then you course correction, do a course correction and move on. So that is something that we keep on doing, every 1 year or 2 years almost. So which is why we have a very, very quick change in the planning. And that strengthens our program, actually. That's why during the COVID times, we could very easily, work through the COVID because of this kind of planning that we always have. So we are kind of mentally geared for any kind of change that, okay, if this is going to happen, then this is how we're going to circumvent and get the work done.
Now, the breast cancer is very much increasing in number. What is the target age exactly? Very young?
For breast cancer, earlier it was older, but gradually you find it's getting younger. So, the main concern for India is that we are getting women at the age in the 30s, in their 40s, when they're not prepared for it. And also that's the peak of their life, when professionally and personally also. So India is at a very, very, complex stage in terms of handling cancer. If you look at breast cancer, for instance, since you mentioned it, what we notice most of the time is that women are unaware of the changes. And as I said, there's no pain. And if you don't have a pain, you would not go to a doctor. And one would also be on constant denial that it can never happen to me. Listen, not to me. It can happen to anybody else. How can it happen to me? I didn't have cancer in the family. So it is not happening to me. So they will sit quietly. And breast cancer symptoms are also not always lumps. There could be a lot of other set of symptoms which are there, which could be a discoloration. It could be even the texture in any part of the breast that, changes to a rough orange peel-like texture, or could be discharged from the nipple. There are a lot of these things that are there. But the main point here is that, since we are not thinking that my breast can be diseased, so we are not paying attention to it. And also that's a body part which is inside, hidden. So until the woman talks about it, no one would know. If I had something on the face, somebody would see it and say, oh, what's wrong here? But, with breast cancer, the problem is that it's all inside. Same with cervical cancer, it's again a private part. If the woman doesn't say she has a problem, nobody will ever come to know. So it's the responsibility of the woman to first be aware of a change in the body, which is not normal. And she needs to talk about it to any clinician, anybody she is visiting. But she needs to talk about it. That, I think, is the first thing. And the second is that girls need to be told very early on in life. Like we had a program for a short while in the college on breast cancer, on breast health education in Calcutta and in Shillong, because we work in the Northeast as well, that, you should know what the changes in the breast are, because when they're young in college, then they have a normal breast. So then gradually, if they learn how to do a self-examination, which is a way for them to know there's a change happening, so they would know the normal breast and they'll know the abnormal breast. Now, when you talk to a woman in the 50s, she can't change her habits. If you tell her that please go ahead and do a self-examination every day, she will not do it. She will not do it. It doesn't scare her enough. So if you start early and you tell them, listen, it's just once a month, you do 10 minutes and that's it. Just keep an eye on the change. This is not a diagnostic test. This is just a way to know that something might be wrong. You go to a doctor. That's it. Just visit a doctor. Don't sit with it. That's the only thing that we tell them. So breast cancer is increasing. One reason is because of that. Of course, changing lifestyle. There's hormonal issues. So there are a lot of other complicated things that are there. But mainly...
Also, there is a myth. I've done nothing wrong in my life, so I can't get cancer.
This is typically an image that cancer has. Yeah, it's not just breast cancer. Typically, cancer has.
Yes.
Because if you see, always people are dying of cancer. I always say that, cancer death makes stories. If somebody has survived cancer, they need to come out and say, listen, I'm here for 30 years. I had cancer, got treated, and I'm fine. I don't have a problem. So people need to see more survivors. So I have this thought of, bringing in more and more long-term survivors. There are many. Say, for instance, a simple thing like the Amartya Sen, for instance, Professor Amartya Sen was diagnosed at the age of 18 when he was in Calcutta, and he got treated here. Now, he lived a full life. And so when you hear these stories, one would think, oh, great, that means I can survive. Because when you hear of celebrities, they mostly go abroad for treatment. So common people think, oh, listen, I can't go abroad, so I will die. So, but if you diagnose it early, it hardly costs you money. People take a chemo capsule and go to work. They go to office. You don't have to do intravenous even. So these are people need to know that it's that simple if it's diagnosed early. It doesn't cost you much money. So CFI's focus is to reduce also the cost. That an individual, we don't want people to sell off everything that they have and then die, because the family which is left behind just keeps on paying for the debt forever. So which is something that one of the focus that we have is that if you diagnose it early, the cost comes down, the treatment is easier, much, much easier, and the life is saved. So what more do you want? And these people have to come forward and share their stories. We need to hear more and more survivors saying that, oh, wow, I'm here and I'm leading a normal life. Yes, they have died because they diagnosed it late. Like Aditya Birla died of cancer at the age of 49. I mean, he had all the money in the world. So if the money could save a life from cancer, he would have been here. It's sad. It's very, very unfortunate, but it's the stage actually that matters. So we want people to come in early and, lead a normal life.
Do you have any documentary film on these cancer survivors? Do you have any
I had
CFI documentary?
I mean, not too many. We intend to make more now because, when you're running an NGO, those of you who run organizations, that, mostly we have so much of load of administration that the creative part somehow takes a backseat. So I have been told many times to make films, but I intend to make films. I have made a few for WHO long back and for the University Grants Commission where I used to work. So I had a series which I have made there. But here I would want to make more for the YouTube, more for social media now so that people hear these stories. Also those who have quit tobacco, quitters also here are winners. In our case, we always say quitters are winners. And we want more and more quit stories to come forward. And, people should hear more and more that, yes, it's possible. And you can sustain that even over a long period of time. And then you have good health. And survivor films, yes, I have not made much, but I would love to make more, as many as I can. If I have more survivors, so if in the group, if there any survivor who has been there for a long time would want to share the story, please get in touch with Prakriti and she can get in touch with me.
Gitanjali, can you hear us? You're there now?
Yes. We
can do for her.
Right.
We can do for her.
Yes.
That would be wonderful if you can across the country.
Video on the survivors.
It's a wonderful.
As many.
Yeah, it's a wonderful idea. Actually,
help her out in doing CFI.
Sutapa, we would love probably you, Prakriti and Sharmishta can get together. We can create this as a campaign itself, Sharmishta, and because we are part of so many forums, like I'm sure there are many people, and if they can come forward and tell us their story, and which should inspire, a lot of people to take.
We have many around us, in fact.
Yeah.
From our school also.
Right.
We have many around.
Sure.
That will be a wonderful project.
Yeah.
That would be fantastic. Doesn't cost anything, just that we have to reach out to those people, convince them to share their story.
Yes.
Share their story.
That's the part that we have. Because, in the next 1 year, I intend to have, create 3 networks I'm thinking of stories of those who have quit tobacco, not just smoking, but other forms. So we have people from all strata of society write those stories up beautifully.
Interrupting you, Zarda is also one ingredient.
Yes, all forms of tobacco. So, this is one is for cervical cancer. I want those girls who have been vaccinated, women who have survived, and breast cancer. particularly, and of course, all survivors are welcome, but not all cancers can be prevented. That's one of the things that can be diagnosed early. So the tricky part is that, all cancers cannot be worked on in terms of prevention. So we focus on the major ones, which can be prevented, and that takes to almost 60% of cancers in India. And so we don't get into all cancers. So our focus is on the preventable major ones. And that's the government guideline as well. That's what the Government of India guideline says as well. Focus on these.
Sure, definitely. I mean, we'll definitely work on it. Yeah,
that would be wonderful.
Any questions for her from the viewer side?
I think more questions will come in later once it sinks in. But one of the things that I want to, mention here while you're thinking of the questions is that, Rotary as an organization is focused on cervical cancer. In fact, in January, on the 5th of January, in fact, the International Inner Wheel is visiting Calcutta. And one of the focus for them is cervical cancer. Cancer Council of India is organizing a community level screening of 50 women in the city. So it's one of the areas of focus, and we would want that they take up, like they have taken up one point of time.
Exactly, I was about
to take up women in the country, because WHO has said the cervical cancer can be eliminated. That's the only cancer up for elimination. So there is a very, very clear roadmap and a strategy that has been given by WHO since last year. And so I think that, as Rotary have taken up, and they take up in bits and pieces, Rotary is doing for cervical cancer for quite a few years now. And it's one of the focus areas. So maybe, we can come together and think of building more on it. Building in with more ideas. At least we can think of survivors to start with, look for more and more cervical cancer survivors and make them, write stories, write blogs, put it up on the social media.
Right.
We keep on, pushing it as much as possible. It could just short opinion pieces, whatever they want to write. Let them just talk of their stories, different aspects of it. Mothers talking of what they want to do for their daughters, whichever way that they can. The whole idea is that create a momentum. And from this end, for those who have been affected, that listen, something has to be done. You please, have screening for all girls, women, and have vaccination for all girls. So this, I think, as a drive, Rotary, I think, is the right organization, the platform to take it up.
Sure, definitely. I mean, we are a small club, but as you said, we are a small. I mean, you are a small NGO, but doing wonderful work. And I think everything starts from that first step, and I'm sure we will go along together. One more thing I wanted to know, Sutapa, how much this vaccine will cost? One vaccine?
At the moment, if you're taking individually, per dose of the vaccine costs around 2,500. Okay. If you are younger, a girl is younger between 9 and 14, they take 2 doses. If they are like plus 14 till about 18, you go for 3 doses. But the younger, the better. It's around 9 and 10. If one can give 2 doses, that's better. But when the government rolls out, the cost really comes down.
Yes,
absolutely, it's in bulk. Definitely. So that cost is going to be, as of now, what we have negotiated with the manufacturers comes down to almost 700 rupees. So, which is, again, these are all imported. Now, India is coming up with its own vaccine from the Serum Institute, which has done the Covishield. And because of the Covishield, our vaccine got delayed. So the HPV vaccine was supposed to be released. All the trials have been done to be released by 2022. But now we see that all facilities are now just churning out Covishield. So we are pushed back. And I believe that it will be sometime in 23 or 24. So that is... well, not a very happy thing, but then again, it will happen sometime. The cost will come down. The whole point is the moment the Indian vaccine comes up and there's more demand generated, the cost will come down. And that, I think, is going to be great. And there is enough scientific evidence also to see that 1 dose also works. So one of the studies that we work with WHO. So initially, the vaccine was for 3 doses. So when we started, it was 3 doses. So we worked, WHO study is continuing since 2009. And we are part of that study as well. The results said, no, 2 dose works equally well if the girls are younger. Now the study results of our study says that 1 dose also works. So it has been published in Lancet last month. So
1 dose in early stage. In
early age. But that will take a little more time. So it is just an evidence from the sample that we are working on. But once we do it at a larger level, then it would be a recommendation from WHO in some time, not now. I think it will take about a year. But scientifically, they find that the antibody levels are similar. So, you know, if it is one dose, again, the cost comes down. The child doesn't have to go twice. You do it one time. And also that you do it at one dose, the cost comes down. And if the Indian vaccine comes in slashing the price, that's great. Like hepatitis B, you know, HepVac was expensive at some point of time. The price started coming down. So we are looking at all those things happening in the future and protecting all the girls in the country.
Yeah. Does menstrual cup, is it really helpful to prevent cervical cancer?
I have no comment on that. I'm not a person to comment on that, really. So maybe a gynecologist can give you a better view on that.
Have you ever worked on that?
Not really. There's so many other things to work on. We have not reached that point. There are a lot of issues to work on, actually. So might be somebody else working, but that's not our area. We are primarily at the moment working on HPV vaccination in a big way.
Sutapa, you never thought, I mean, has CFI thought of, you know, like how Gates Foundation is, you know, like helping a lot for Rotary, you know, they are one of the biggest contributors. So how about getting in touch with them for these
we can, depends. Like the vaccine study that we do with WHO, it's funded by the Gates Foundation since 2009. So which is not directly to us, but they do it to the International Agency for Research on Cancer, IARC, which is the cancer research arm of WHO based in Lyon. So they are the ones who receive the funds from Gates Foundation, and that is directed to all the 10 centers across the country. It's a multi-centric study across the country with aims and all in it. So we are all part of the vaccine group, as we always call ourselves, that we are the early vaccinators, you know, in 2009, when it was recognized by the government of India that we could vaccinate. So that study started in 2009. We are following up all the girls. Like CFI has 1,000 girls vaccinated in Sikkim and Mizoram. And we follow up all the girls regularly for the past, say, 11 years now. And it'll go on till probably 2025, and they are absolutely fine. And we keep on checking the antibody levels of their body. So the blood is collected, cervical cells are taken. You know, that's all monitored by France, so WHO. And we do find that those get support. Those kind of large studies, Gates Foundation have supported. Our kind of studies, you know, there are different funding agencies we reach out to. One, of course, is for us now is the American Cancer Society, which is working with us on HPV vaccine communication. So which is one of the strong areas of CFI. And as I said, since my area is communication. So that's one of the things that we are doing. Then, of course, we have a Government of India funding from ICMR, which is to strengthen the northeastern states on cancer screening. So we are working with, it's a 3-year project funded by ICMR, which is to work with Mizoram and Meghalaya. We're working with the state governments, working with the teams that does cancer screening and seeing what the problems that they face and how we can find a solution for that. And make sure that it's streamlined. So we reach out to funding agencies, but on specific programs. So we cannot do everything. As I said, you know, we are low on human resource, good quality human resource. So that's a huge challenge that we have. So we cannot take up a lot of programs. A lot of ideas are there. I mean, every day I get ideas, but then you can't translate all the ideas. So you need to shape it up. When you go to foundations like the Gates Foundation or any such group or the Clinton Initiative, we have all the friends around because, you know, we are all working in the same sector. So, but we can't really develop a project of that scale if you don't have good professionals working. So because I can only take this much. So that's why I take this. So sometime if I have good professionals working, would love to work and do more. There's so much more that needs to be done.
True. Anyway, it is wonderful.
Which
wonderful
one is
listening
going which one is spreading faster, the cervical or the breast cancer in women?
Well, it's going kind of parallelly. There are two different reasons of why it is growing. Breast cancer is going up in the urban areas mostly, and also with the changing lifestyle of women, with again, you know, delayed childbirth or no childbirth at all. It's a hormonal thing. And with the cervical cancer, one arm was mainly from the rural areas because they would get married early and have early childbirth. So there was kind of a bit of a problem there. But now what we are finding that there's going to be an explosion of cervical cancer. Why we are talking about vaccination is because in the urban areas, the sexual pattern is changing. There is, a very early initiation of sex life because there's a virus implicated which travels from the boys to the girls. But the boys don't get the cancer, but the girls get it. So the problem is that when you are having a sexual debut very early, then your body is not set to fight that particular virus. So you are more prone to the infection. Now, the infection is not causing cancer at the age of maybe 12 or 13. It shows up after 10, 15 years when you reach adulthood. So as India is seeing a change in pattern, sexual pattern in younger people, there is a chance of an explosion of cervical cancer in the future. That's why WHO has come up with all these strategies that across the world, it's not just India, across the world is the same thing. So we need to vaccinate the girls to minimize the chance. We would not say that you can completely not get cervical cancer, but of course, minimize to a large extent. So as of now, people can buy it off the shelf, go to the pediatrician or gynecologist and get their daughters vaccinated, or we wait for some time when it becomes part of the government program and every girl in the country gets for free. That's a dream that I have now, and many of us, I'm not, yes, of course, all fingers crossed actually. That's what I would like, as an NGO, it would be very satisfying for me to see. It's a very quiet work. No one knows what we do. But there's, right before this program, why it was delayed by 15 minutes was I was in another national conference where we had a session on this and on cervical cancer elimination. It's a national conference, large one happening. And we were talking of these things. And that's why the delay. And there's a need for everyone to come together. Okay, not just gynecologists, everyone. That's what we were talking on, that everybody has a role to play. So we, as communicators, have a role to play in this as well.
Is this the reason you are stressing on northeast of India?
Two reasons. One is that if you look at the cancer registry, which is the list of cancers happening in the country released by the government of India, the highest cancer is in Mizoram. So way back in 2004-05, when we kind of started, we found that, as I said, that we can't solve every problem. So then we said, where are the cancers? So when we were looking at the cancer landscape, and gradually we have seen just not come down. So what we felt is that one of the work that CFI has as a focus area is capacity building. So we don't do capacity building blues on individuals. So we said that, okay, let's do the capacity building of the government doctors for cervical cancer. So that's how we started. At least they can take care of themselves. We don't need to do much. We just need to strengthen them. So that is how we started in 2005. For me, it was very, very challenging to start off. But over the years, we have realized that the cancers are not coming down. It's just changing the pattern. It is something is coming down, something else is going up. So there are some gaps that are happening. So we continue to work with Mizoram. As I said, it's the highest cancer in the country, cancer incidence in India. Meghalaya, very, very high.
What type of cancer?
Mostly different, it's cervical breast, of course, that's common, tobacco related, stomach, because of the food habits. And the tobacco type is also very different, not exactly what we have, but there's a lot of traditional tobacco forms and also the tobacco forms that are going from here, which is like, Gutkhas and Kainis and all those. And then they have very, very porous border, international border. So you have a lot of, smuggled tobacco coming in, mostly smoking. So those are again unregulated, and children take on that very, very early in life. So there are a lot of challenges that are there. So you see a different pattern, of course, stomach, esophagus, those are very high in those places. One of the reasons is food. So you cannot touch the food. It's very sensitive to tell people you will not have this because they have been traditionally having it. So very tricky. So it's very, very tricky, but we need to start off somewhere. And we will, of course, work on it. There are very good people who are there in the government who are open to changing the pattern of the communication that they do. And we are hopeful. They believe that CFI can help them. So that's also one of the reasons we feel that we can do capacity building. So we work with the governments in Mizoram. We are working for a very, very long time, Mizoram particularly. And the vaccine work is happening in Sikkim and Mizoram simultaneously. I did a breast cancer work for 4 years in 4 states, that is Mizoram, Meghalaya, Manipur, and Tripura, which is on breast cancer, that early signs, how women need to be told and how the government can engage. So that is why Northeast is of interest to me for that. And also these are smaller states to work in. So when you are structuring a model, let's see, Bengal is a large state with a huge population. So rolling anything out comes in later. You first need to structurize, as we say, pilot it, create a model. So with Northeast, these are smaller states, not much population, but they have the structure of a state. So you can try out models there very easily. So that is one of the reasons why, personally, if you would ask me, I go back to the Northeast for that, trying out different models, and then I can come back and to any of the larger states and get it replicated.
Okay.
Yes, then they can customize. Like I'll bring it to Bengal, for instance, that's my state. I do work with them here, not as much, but yes, I do. So we can bring the pieces from there and then we can modify it here. This is a large state, very highly dense population here. So not very easy to work on anything large scale.
Love speaking to you. So informative session. I'm sure everybody enjoyed.
I hope
so.
Her
very much.
All of us learned a lot.
Anjali.
One question I have.
Yes.
One question is. So I know it's a great work that you are doing with. So question is about your. I know the policy that you are trying to make with the a change at the policy level, which is a bigger impact and greater impact. Now, what is how you are successful in influencing the policymakers? What are the lessons learned from your side, from your organization? What works in terms of influencing policymakers, and what doesn't work? Because we are at the same at our own club, Rotary Club, we are trying to do the same thing. We don't want to just fund for treatments or fund directly, but we want to go to the root cause and at a higher impact level, which is a policy, which is a great thing. That's exactly what we also want to do. But really, we don't know how to approach that and make a difference. So we just want to hear from you. What are the lessons that you could share with us? Yeah,
I completely understand. Mr. Reddy, you had touched upon a point very close to my heart. When I was long back, I went on a fellowship to the US, the American Cancer Society. And the first day I was to be, attached to the person who does policy advocacy. And my first sentence to his name was John Daniel. And first thing I told John, I will never, ever in my life work with policymakers. John, I'm not interested in this particular session. It's part of my training. I'm sitting here for 2 hours. I will sit through, you can talk, but I'm not interested. So that was 2006. And now I only do policy advocacy. If you would say that's the main work that I do, and I'm paid for it. That's what I have taken it to. Now, to the main learning is patience. The first thing, it takes a lot of time. The system doesn't work. I'm telling you exactly what I have experienced. The system doesn't work, individuals work. You have to find that right champion within the policymakers, among the policymakers, within the system, who will take you through. So there are strategies for us to work because I personally work with state of West Bengal, not a very easy state to work in. I do, and Northeast, of course, and national level, not as much. There are other players who work at the national level. We feed it. Them information. But what I see mostly is that when you work at the level of the state, they have to see your commitment as well. That, are you seriously into it? So I've been working since 2008, suppose in West Bengal, if I would say. Not a very easy state, but it's a long period that they have seen me. And I really bang the table and sometimes unpleasant, but I'm not an activist, by the way. I'm not an activist. I'm a strategist. I work very, very quiet.
That's very important. That's a very important.
Normally they think, if an NGO, you will take the jhanda. People have told me that, you take the jhanda. Why don't you do this? Break some of the tobacco shops. I said, sorry, not for me. There are others who can do it. I'm not good at it. So I don't even try that. So I am not an activist. So even when I'm working with the government, I work with them. I don't work against them. So if there are problems, I sit with them. They've known me for years now. So they just said, madam, what do we do? So it's like that. So it's a relationship that you build over a period of time. I've seen some of the younger people grow also, young IASs who were younger at that point of time. Now they are in powerful positions. So they know the commitment that I have personally and what CFI has. So it needs a lot of patience. And also that when you look at a policy, which has a lot of pieces in it. You need to identify the piece that you want to work on, not the whole big policy. So which I think is very critical for you to understand that what is it the change that you want to make? Because we have a particular passion which they don't have. And many policymakers, they get transferred every other day. So they are not accountable. Most of the time, you go sensitize someone, he's gone. So he's lost. He's gone somewhere else to some other department. No link with what we have been doing. So if you are thinking of doing anything, the best thing is identify what is it that you want to, which policy, identify first, which piece of that policy you want to work on, who is that person, stakeholders, as we say. Identify the stakeholders, do a very good mapping, do a very good analysis of who the stakeholders are who can make that change, and then work on them over a long period of time. It needs, as I said, a lot of patience. I have learned patience working with them.
Yeah, definitely. It's a challenging work. Yeah.
Very challenging, very. Yeah. But if it works, it's very satisfying because, with small NGOs like us, you don't have resources. How do you have a high impact? Because, with COVID, you realize you can pop off anytime. So that's one thing that I realized, oh my God, I can go away anytime. So what do I leave behind? So it's leaving behind is what is important for me now, I won't say post-COVID really, but during the COVID time, that's one thing that I felt that anything can happen to anyone, anytime. So what do I leave behind is what I'm working on now. As many as I can train, as many as I can seriously change, or policies that I can at least make a dent. I won't say change, but a little dent that I can make so that the next person can take over. It's like a relay race. You don't do it alone. So, you just have the next person, make it easy for the next person, take a few steps for them. So that's what I am looking at now at this point of time.
Great. I think I'm considering the policy influencing as one side of the spectrum, one end of the spectrum for impact. The other end of the spectrum of communication is the parent, the brother, the sister, the mother, the grassroots level at the each and every family level, the education, isn't it? The education and what is meaning of prevention. So at that level, how has been your communication? Like, what are the tools you use to nudge the cultural change to do this prevention education?
I'll tell you very honestly, Mr. Reddy, you are touching the points which are the difficult ones. But I'll answer this, when we started doing, many NGOs do awareness, that's a very common thing that, what do you do? We do cancer awareness. That's one of the things that we don't do as much, to be very honest. Because when you make a person aware, then where does he go? Say you tell a person, if you have a symptom, you should report to the doctor. The doctor is not aware of how to handle it. Or if you're in a remote village, where do they go? So you make the system first, which is ready to welcome a person who is willing to change, right? For screening, anything that they need to know. Many a times we find many patients who have early symptoms, like there are symptoms of TB and lung cancer are similar, tuberculosis and lung cancer. They would go to a doctor. They do go to a doctor, but doctor is not aware of the early signs of lung cancer. They treat for TB. And then by that time, the cancer is growing. Now, when the cancer has grown big, then they say, oh, I can't handle it anymore. You please go to a cancer hospital. Now, the person had reached, because of awareness in some way, reached the doctor, but resolved. Sorry. So this is the whole thing that we need to understand, that it is very important to make the community aware, yes, but also provide them the service so that it is meaningful. So we need to strengthen the system and individual doctors. Like I have taken up a small program, it's as an experiment in the ward that I live, actually, under the Kolkata Municipal Corporation, which is 92. And I'm trying to create a cancer-aware community of this ward. I can't do the whole of Calcutta, but I can do a model here. So we're trying to find a smart way of engaging the community, the resources within the community to strengthen the community. So we have like oncologists living here. We have medical shops here. We have the small GPs here, those GPs, general practitioners who take 50, 100 rupees maybe. Train them on the early signs that don't do trial and error. If you have a problem, please let them go. Let them go to the right place so that they're diagnosed early and are cured. So community planning is very, very different. So we have failed in places, things have worked. Sometimes things have not worked, but it's very, very tricky. You have picked the right point, and I'm trying to find a modular structure. As I said, I'm doing it for a year now to start off, from this year, the coming year till 7th of November, from 7th November to 7th November, which is our 20th year actually, and see if I can reach anywhere. I have other researchers with me, and we are all trying to experiment. If it works out, then it can be replicated as an urban model, because we don't have a very good urban model. So I'm trying to, let me see if I can do it. It's very challenging. So many people are saying not to do that.
The other question I had was, so a lot of medical doctors, we are assuming that they know everything. So what I find is that many of the doctors are not uniformly informed about the cancer prevention. So is there an opportunity for talking to the universities who are generating these doctors, in the curriculum, is there enough of material and content and the time spent on cancer prevention and education? Because when I go to a doctor, one doctor is completely not aware of cancer prevention that I have read about, and I have incidents like that. So did you find something similar in Indian doctors community who there is enough? I'm sure there is a spectrum of awareness, but can we make that as well uniformity and standardize that awareness? Is there an opportunity there? Did you find that as an area of impact?
You've put your finger in the right place. You said that you're looking for policy change points. So one is this, including cancer public health in the curriculum.
Yeah, exactly.
Extremely difficult because, what has happened is that when we started working on that, that's also one of the areas we started at some point of time. We realized the curriculum is also not standardized. Every state, they would have a different curriculum. So, it is very, very complicated. Public health in general, I'm not just talking of cancer, in general, is not something that one sees as a lucrative career also, even the medical professionals. So you would not find the brightest brain, as I always say. The brightest ones would not come for doing an MD in community medicine. So they would go for something else. So when I talk to those, I work with some of them who have done their MD in community medicine. I talk to all of them. I said, why? So most I find, they're doing it for the heck of doing an MD, to be very honest, but not really focused on or passionate about public health. Because they haven't really understood. It's a very creative sector to work in, it's an evolving thing. So I find it fun. I find it fun to work there. But not many think like me. So there aren't too many. But we should have a good workforce. We must have to take it forward. It would happen hopefully sometime. But
definitely.
Not now.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah, thanks for those responses.
Thanks, Mr. Reddy, also from my side. Any other questions coming up for her? Any other point to discuss?
Madam Sarathi here.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. It's wonderful, amazing that I only hope Geetanjali could have had a multi-district seminar on this, because
we can still have it, sir. We can plan it one more session.
Sutapa has to probably repeat everything again.
I don't mind.
She's a communication expert. I'm sure she won't mind.
Wonderful. I tell you, one of the best sessions I could listen to. Only 8 people are here. I would have wondered if I could get about 5 to 8 districts, about 100 people. Awareness among Rotarians themselves is the need of the hour. Forget about the I think from here it spreads to the other people. And very good questions asked. You answered most of the questions, and you didn't find a champion yet, is it, to match you? That is the part you are talking.
There are many. Just that one has to find them. I mean, my school friends found them, so that's why I'm here.
So if you can give us we are also part of this Rotary Club. If you can give us a playbook of communication on this subject, awareness, and then we could sort of replicate whatever has been successful. So that playbook we could just pass it on to all the Rotary clubs and make a bigger impact in terms of communication at a ground level.
Absolutely. There are many available already. so which I can share. But at the but as we were talking, if we can think of taking up these survivor stories, which could be easy since you have a network. See, the strength that Rotary has is the network, and which is, if we can put that to use and bring in positive stories of real people, common people, not celebrities, but real people who've got their disease diagnosed early and lead a normal life. Not like at home and under medication. I would want those who are working. People need to see them. That they'll say, "Oh wow, I see this person here, and the person had cancer like 20 years ago." So, I want to have powerful statements from them. The other day I was interviewing one of the survivors. I've known her for a long time. The first opening sentence that she said when I was interviewing her, she said, "I've forgotten how many years or when I got it. I don't remember the date." I said, "When did you get cancer?" She said, "I don't remember the date." I said, "That's such a powerful statement. It's been so many years ago. She doesn't even recall that when it happened." So that's what I want, that, you just forget about it. You just go on with your life and it doesn't bother you at all. So you can create a network, and that I think would be a great thing to start with. And actually, so we can use that. And I look for more. There are more available, the playbooks on different aspects.
So that will be wonderful. We can really work on it, as Ishwarji mentioned, especially our club. Yeah.
Yes, please do. That is something that I would take back with me, and that I think is going to be the best part of spending this time with you, that, we can work together on something constructive.
Sure.
Thank you.
We will work together.
Yeah, and Rotarian Parthasarathy, if you can take the lead and organize a multi-district, like webinar, that will be wonderful. We'll definitely support you. We'll be one of the partner clubs if you want.
We'll support you. You're going to anchor it. You're going to host it.
Sure.
What we have done regarding, regarding this foundation seminar, Rotary Foundation seminar, somebody has come forward to host it. You can host it, and I can find you the co-host clubs across the South India, probably.
Sure. Because
we can have a good number. Let the awareness come, and let her find the champions within Rotary itself.
Sure.
Those who can spread the message.
I would just add 4th of February is World Cancer Day. So if you're interested, you can pick that as the day.
Wonderful. Yes.
So that is you have ample time to work on, a couple of months. So you can take that up as the day.
Yeah, thanks for suggesting that. Yeah, that
we
makes
would probably make it an international, if you don't mind, Sutapa. I think it is a problem all over the world, right?
There are champions, but we need more champions in India. Look for more.
No, I'm talking about this seminar. This seminar can be
absolutely.
We may invite completely, depends on their interest, of course, but we would definitely do a pan India seminar within the Rotary district.
More than happy to
have done a couple of their Geeta. This club can take the initiative. I'll give it to them to take the initiative. Probably find co-host clubs so that we have more listeners, and they can spread their awareness around. Wonderful listening to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
To conclude,
thank you for the opportunity.
Crossing fingers, every girl should get the vaccination. One day, it's your dream, it's our dream too. And you, in one line, you are a silent reformer. You should remember that like that.
It's an ordinary person, but I enjoy this.
We are proud of you. Yes, we are all proud of you as a school friend, as a friend, as a competitor, in every way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Your blessings and good wishes coming.
Love to work with you.
Thank you.
Always.
It will be an honor for me.
Thank you everyone for joining.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gitanjali.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Nice meeting you all.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Bye-bye.